title of the webinar is called email etiquette. Okay, so before we start, what is etiquette? Okay, just as an introduction about this, let me say that all of this started the use of certain rules, I guess rules, and some do's and don'ts started because of the use of the internet as a source. Well, not internet, but exactly the use of the email as a source of communication. So as email started, progressing, and each person started using this more and more, then there was a need for people and users to set up some sets of rules. So the idea of etiquette is basically the use or the standardization of some rules so that the communication process would be more like standardized or more stress-free when we started sending emails to different people and communicating our intentions or trying to express something in writing, in this case through email, basically. Now, some people call this netiquette. Okay, so it's some kind of I don't want to say protocol because it's like Spanglish. It's more or less some rules that we need to use in order to communicate. So in this case, these rules are what we're going to talk about today, and some people call it netiquette. The certain rules and things that you can and you can't do in when you are communicating via email. Okay, so basically that's what's happening. Let's start with the first rule. Okay, the use of the to, the CC, and the BCC. Okay, so the to, the CC, and the BCC. In the case of the to, well, normally in the email you have it says like from, meaning, for example, myself that I'm sending. So it's like from Luis Pastor to from Luis Pastor to let's say Brian. Okay, so that's the intention there. So it's from Luis Pastor to Brian. Okay. Now we have another one that says CC, and we have another one that says BCC. In the case of the CC, what is CC? CC means a copy. Okay, so you copy another person. So in this case, I am writing the email. I'm sending this email to another person, and additionally, I want to copy to a third person. Okay, so that's the CC case. Okay, CC. So if you, as you can see there, it says the CC is a third person that you want to contact, or you want a third person to read this message. Okay. Now there is another option. Okay, there's another option that says BCC. Okay, there's another option, BCC. The other option is blind copy. I suggest you don't use that one. Okay, that one is kind of if you are using that one, the intention of that one means that you are copying to another person, and then there is a third person that you want to copy, but you don't want the rest of the people to know the name of that person that you have copied the email. So sometimes the BCC, I would say the BCC is not really proper behavior when you write emails. So I would say it sounds a little bit unethical. Okay, so Normally, I would never use it. Okay, let's go for the next one, the next item. Okay, the next item is, and I think this is like a pain because this is the reply all. Okay, this is the reply all, and I think this, for me, this is like a nightmare. People don't know exactly how to use this particular one. For example, you receive an email. Okay, you receive an email, and then if you hit the option reply all, basically everybody who is on the list will be contacted. Okay, so for example, I receive the email and I say reply all, and let's say that all of you, the 5 or the 8 guys I have connected, receive the email. Okay, because I said reply, so everybody on the list receives that. Okay, so then the person who is receiving the email. So the person that is receiving, let's say Yanela received the email because I said reply everybody to all. So Yanela received the email and she did the same thing. So she said reply to all. So then I receive the email again because she said reply to all. So then it gets messy. Okay? So I would say you have to be very careful with that reply all. Okay? Okay, so unless the I would say the reply all is if you started the communication. For example, I write an email, and this okay, I write an email and I do a CC everybody. Okay, then in that case, okay, so the person receives it. Now, um, the reply all could be applicable if I receive an email, and in the email I receive an email and I send it to a person. I CC one person, but when the person that is CC received the email, she or he thought it was a good idea to include some other people. Okay, so he wanted to include 3 or more people. So then I receive the email again because there's something maybe there's an extra piece of information that the person added. So I receive the email and then I answer or make comments. Then I would use the reply to all because it's not only the CC, and I want the CC people to know the information plus the new guys that were incorporated to that particular list. So that's where I would use the reply all, but only one time. The next one. In the next case, okay, the other thing about emails, and that's a concept that many people have, I guess, forgotten. The email should be short, okay? The message should be short and concise. So something like a telephone conversation. So you're not going to have a 3 or a 4 hour telephone conversation. Okay? So the message in the email has to be short and concise. So you're not going to write a 2 or a 3 or a 4 page email. Okay? That's not the intention of the email. The intention of the email is to write something very short and very concise. So it's not to write a long story. Because imagine that we receive, for example, I would ask you, and I'll ask the question then, how many emails do you receive per day? So how many emails do you receive per day? So imagine if you receive these very, very long emails. So then basically you're not going to have all the time and or all the energy to respond to all these emails. So think about maybe what is more convenient. Is it more convenient to make a telephone call? Is it convenient to write an email? So think about, or maybe it's more convenient to have a face-to-face, maybe have a face-to-face interaction. Okay, let's check the next one. Okay, something about punctuation. Emails, um, emails don't have to, you don't have to be that, perfectionist in the punctuation. Okay, so the idea here is just to use the basic punctuation. So you use a period and maybe commas. Okay, period and commas. Okay, that's the, I guess, the basic punctuation. Period, commas. Okay, so that's what we can use. Periods, commas. Okay, semicolons and all these other ones, brackets and colons and all of that. No. Okay, so the idea here is to use just the basic punctuation, periods and commas. Okay. Then another thing. mhm, Another thing about this, I guess that's a one about punctuation. Okay. Um, Now the other one we have, that's the other thing, the format. Okay, the format of the email. Okay, the format of the email. Okay, in this case, just a plain format. Okay, plain format. Okay, plain format. You don't have just a period at the end of the sentence. Okay, the don't use a color background. For example, some people like don't use I don't know if you're familiar with this. Don't use stationery. Okay, do not use stationery. Okay, so just plain white with maybe, I don't know, black ink. Okay, or maybe blue ink, but do not be like a background like pink background, or like, for example, or like here, like in my template here, I have, for example, a blue background with black letters. Okay, now the salutations. Okay, salutations. Okay, salutations. In this case, it means whether we are using, okay, Mr., Mrs., Miss, etc., etc. Okay, so I guess in the case of men, it's very easy because we use Mr., which is Mr. Smith. I guess maybe in the case of women, it's a little complicated because normally, okay, if it's Miss, Mrs. Okay, so I would say, to be safe, I would say MS. Okay, I would say MS. Okay, MS. Okay, to be safe. Okay, so that's like a bit more neutral. Okay, because if you write MRS Mrs., you don't know exactly. Let's say that you assume that the person is married, but maybe the person is not, or maybe the person is not married, or maybe is maybe divorced, or maybe widow, etc., etc. So the idea is not. Okay. Then go to the next slide. Okay, in the next slide is about the attachments. Okay, the use of attachments. And in this case, you would have to I would say that the intention is try to use um, attach files that are not so dense. Okay, so the recommendation is maybe 1 megabyte. okay, 1 megabyte. Okay, a file that is 1 megabyte, because a 1 megabyte is, let's say, quote unquote, is not heavy. Okay, it's not a heavy file. So, and in this case, you know, we don't know exactly about the for example, here in Peru, the quality of the internet connection, uh, I, we would say the bandwidth, right? So in this case, it depends a lot on the bandwidth. Okay. All right. Next one then. Okay. Now this thing about the threads. Okay. I guess we were talking a little bit about this thread. Okay. Is when you send the first mail and then you receive the response, and then so this basically is like a chain. You send an email, you receive a response, and you respond in that same email. So it's like kind of like a chain. Okay, one after. So now it depends. It depends how important this is, because maybe you in the same email many people respond, so because you want to have the whole picture, you want to have this whole story. So be very careful with that, because sometimes what happens is you want to follow the thread, but then the other thing happens. If you are doing to reply all, then it gets very messy. Okay, so basically the threads are good because you want to follow the whole sequence of the story of the email. Sometimes it's, for example, you're sending an email because you're sending an email to a client, and you want to you want to ask the client if he received the product, no? And then the client writes, for example, something like, no, sorry, no, or Luis, I did not receive the product. So then I say, okay, so then I'll respond to him, okay, I will check this. So all this, let's say all the sequence, is very important to have a record of evidence of all the sequence of the email. So it gets like, that's why we call it a thread. So now in other cases it's not necessary to have that, but I would suggest it in the case of things like where you have to keep track of things. Okay, if you have to do a follow up, then it will be a good idea to use this option. Otherwise, just on a separate email. Okay, the other one is uppercase. The other one is uppercase or lowercase. Okay, uppercase or lowercase. So uppercase, this is uppercase, and this is lowercase. Okay, so uppercase is capital letters, and lowercase is like smaller letters. Okay, so for example, in this case, uppercase, I would say never use uppercase. Okay, never use uppercase, because if you're using uppercase in all the emails, for example, if I write something like this, hi, and no, I would say something like this. I have a problem with my computer. I oops, sorry. Oops, I did something. Okay, let me just cross that. So I say, I have a problem with my computer. I need a quick solution, something like that. So if I'm doing that, okay, if I read that, okay, I would say the message here is that I would say, please don't shout. Right? I would say, please don't shout. Okay, basically that's what's happening. Okay, if I have an email like that, the recommendation here is only use uppercase, okay, capital letters, just to emphasize something. Okay, if you want to emphasize, highlight something, okay, then use the capital letter. But otherwise, then no, because it is very it's very rude to use capital letters because the message is like if you're shouting. The other thing is some people like to use the color red. Okay, red is, I would say, is like blood. Hmm? Okay, so no. So the idea is to not use the color red because the red is also shows it's a little bit of disrespectful. Okay, so the idea here is not to use the color red. Oh, and also the uppercase because it will be like you're shouting. Okay, so stay away from those. Okay. Okay. Oops, sorry. Okay, the next one. Okay, I guess. Okay, then. Nothing more to say. I would say thank you too, and I hope that you enjoy this, and I hope to see you, Janela, next week on the 25th for the last topic of the month. Okay, so enjoy the rest of the night, and hope to see you next week. Bye.